It's Slick Rick time. I hope you guys have your thinking caps on and are ready to learn some knowledge, because the LS Nasty Nerd is back in the building and ready to drop some knowledge on you guys. If you guys want to do this at home, is this something safe you'd recommend for people to try at home?
Yeah.
Just get your notepad out. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so we got a few things. Got some stuff wired up. We have the blow-off valve, MAC valve wired up and tested. We tested the CO2. We did a PID loop. Everything follows it pretty close. Let's see, I can pull one of those up.
What's the PID loop? Say it to the dummies.
So the PID loop and everything, you want to make sure that you have, this is like a little test that you would run. So you would start off like on the trans brake, you'd command 10 pounds, and then you would go up to 30, and then 40, 80, back down. Pretty much, you really want to work the system more than you would, if you're just going through a.
And what system is the PID loop testing?
It's a boost control system. So that's your solenoid, solenoid placement, our lines, line size. There's so many variables, so every system really needs to be tuned.
So here are MAC valves. We run the HOLLEY bullet valves.
Yep, high flow MAC valves. We got our Rife sensor block here. It also measures CO2 pressure, so I'll just turn it on here in a minute. And
so you're measuring CO2 pressure, then you're measuring
dome pressure.
Dome pressure.
Yep.
Okay, and then off of that third one you're measuring fuel pressure, and then you have a temp sensor.
Yep, oil temp sensor that goes in there, and a few other things. We're measuring wastegate position, blow-off valve position, so we'll get into that. But so what I'm going to do is, this is a test we already ran. This is after it's tuned, and this is pretty aggressive. This is going from like 0 to 10 to 50 to 100, and then back down, and it just can't bleed off fast enough here. But this overshoot right here, it's like 1 pound, so when it's going from 30 to 80 right here, it's that's pretty quick. So this is much faster. We ran one that was pretty much 100 psi in 0.8 of a second. It followed it almost exactly. So,
and you'll see some people when it's not right, it'll be like it'll overshoot, it'll dip, it'll get into this oscillation, and what that does, that affects how the turbo works, because instead of holding the wastegate steady, it's constantly opening and closing the wastegate.
Yep. And we're about to, and I'm going to show you on the blow-off valve here in a minute how that works. But so this is the setup right here. We got we have CO2 pressure right there at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to turn the CO2 on. There's CO2. So showing 112 pounds of pressure. Shooting for like 110. We might bump it up to 120. But you can also, in your boost control right here, you can go in and dome control setup, and you can reference your CO2 pressure. So if CO2 pressure is dropping, or like something's going on and like the regulator's messed up, if it sees the regulator coming down, then it knows that the regulator's at 60 psi, because normally you have it as fixed, so it's fixed at 120. But if it's not 120 exactly, or if it's 150 or 80 or whatever, it'll change your PID loop. So doing it with a reference like that, as that fluctuates, it can make compensations for that. So right now, one of the things we decided to do, and I did some testing on MK Ultra, and it works really well, is the blow-off valve has got a couple extra different lines run to it. You have your normal reference line, and then you have this extra one right here that is going to be a CO2, and at the bottom it's going to be able to open this valve. You also have a blow-off valve position sensor, so we can tell if this blow-off valve is open or closed. The position sensor is good because you can tell, like, is it opening during the run? Is it not shut all the way? Like, there's so many variables. But also what you can do is you can open this, and it creates a boost leak. Well, if you guys have ever spooled a car with something leaking on the charge pipe, the turbo will just start huffing. I mean, it will be zinging. Like, the shaft speed's 20, 30,000 over normally what it is, and we have measured our shaft speed right here too. So what you do is you open this, put it on the chip. The turbo doesn't really have any restriction because it's not compressing any air, it's just spinning it up as fast as it can. It pretty much turns this into a big flywheel, and once you reach your desired shaft speed, then you can close this. And I'll show you guys right here.
Also, want to give a big shout out to TurboSmart, because they make the absolutely most badass wastegates and blow-off valves. We have the wastegate position sensor over there. Someone asked why we're not running the electronic wastegates, and
HOLLEY won't do it.
HOLLEY won't do it. That's just how it is. There's the technology is not there to support it with the HOLLEY stuff. We're running these with the wastegate position sensor and then the badass blow-off valve.
Yep. So and two, like I do think maybe that the electronic wastegate has its advantages. I haven't really found the limitations of a CO2 based system. We'd have to run CO2 anyway. I mean, we could go to an electric shifter, but then our parachute. So we got CO2 on board. You know, it works great for a lot of people. I would like to tune a car with electronic wastegates to see exactly how much better and how much finer the control is. But I mean, CO2 can be pretty accurate. All right, so got this set up, and I just have a basic duty cycle table from 10 to 50. Because it only takes 50% duty cycle, so it's not just like on and off. We're able to modulate this thing. So I have it based off the TPS right now, so more TPS, it's modulating. But now what you can do, since we have our position sensor, you can come in here and you can do blow-off valve. This table, we have our blow-off valve position right here. And we want to be at 0 here, and we'll say 3 inches here, which is going to target around 1 inch of travel. So if the travel's under here, then it's going to add more duty cycle, which would open it farther. If the travel's over here, then it's going to remove duty cycle, which would limit the amount of flow, so it should close it a little bit. So what you can do by that is right now, instead of like where I was modulating and you come to it, you can just pick like, hey, we want it open this much. So we can open it like a little bit, a lot of it, all the way, you know, 10% of the way. So with a little bit of fine tuning there, you can just, so that opened it halfway. This was just me holding it wide open. It goes the same way. You know, if you want to open it just a little bit, what you can do is
and we don't. What spring is in here? We don't even know.
the blow-off valve spring?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That sucker works pretty good though, I must say.
So this is gonna be less. So you can just keep it to where we can get it to where it's just barely bleeding just a little bit off, or a lot, you know, just depending on how you want to set it up. So that's going to be something that, you know, we're going to have to test it and tune it and go like, hey, we want to target 1 inch of blow-off valve travel while it's spooling, because you maybe won't want to bleed all the air off. Maybe you want to keep some of it going in the motor. So you can do a lot of fine tuning with that. So that's one of the reasons now you're kind of seeing how the data is coming together on this, and how all the extra sensors and why would you need this, and it really helps do all the kind of trick stuff. And honestly, to go really fast, I mean, you got to do some tricky stuff sometimes. So we'll see. I'm really excited. We'll be able to tell on the dyno. We'll try some stuff out. We'll get the shaft speed working, and you know, we'll do a spool up test. We'll see what our shaft speed is with it open, with it closed, how long it takes, how fast you can get the boost coming in.
A lot of other people are just putting a wastegate on there,
yeah,
which is another failure point, and it's just a lot more complicated. Where if you could do it all with the blow-off valve. Yeah,
you do it with the blow-off valve. You can pick your travel. Like you could do an electronic wastegate on there. I mean, rally cars and stuff have done this for a long time. In my testing, I don't need to do it because mine, like, you know, 5 pounds of boost and it'll go one flat 60 foot. But something like this, where you want to try to get a lot of boost in quick, you know, that's what we're going to do. And there's just an unlimited amount of possibilities that you can do with this. So instead of like, say you want to lower the boost, like we can get into even tuning with this to where we don't tune with the wastegates per se, but we target a shaft speed and then control how much power the engine's making by how much the blow-off valve is open. By doing that, you know, when you do it with the wastegate, you're controlling the boost by shaft speed. So the shaft speeds, you know, when you say, hey, I want 20 pounds of boost and then now I want 40, well, the shaft speed's got to get up there. It can't just make 40 pounds of boost. You got to have the shaft speed to make that. Well, when you do it with the blow-off valve, you're bleeding off the intake.
You could have this thing humming, making 90 pounds of boost, and just have the blow-off valve cracked. And when you want that boost, you just
you'd have the shaft speed to where, like, hey, I want to make 60, I want to make you know, I want to target 80,000 RPM on the shaft speed, and then, but it's too much power in the 60 foot, or it's too much power 2 seconds out, so you just bleed a little bit off there. You keep your shaft speed where it's at. You treat it like a blower. Like the car, every car will go faster if you treat it like a blower. A blower, its advantage is the power is always on tap, so timing is instantaneous. You know, you're already making the power, and you just put the timing in it when you want the power. With a turbo car, you got to wait on the turbo, and it's not super consistent because sometimes, you know, it's pulling up a little bit faster. You know, there's a lot of variables. So in my experience, you know, that's one of the things with the sheep. We went a lot faster when, you know, we didn't really start going, hey, let's put this ramp in there, let's make a lot of boost and then control all the power with the timing. So there's a lot of different ways to tune. Everybody has their own methodology. I think that this is going to be a really good system, and it's going to work really well, and it's going to go really fast. And especially with a big turbo like this, I think we're going to be able to really get a lot of power in it quick to where we can knock down the 330, because this thing will make a ton of power, but if it can't short track, like, it's not going to go fast. So you got to get everything working together in the 60 foot and then, you know, halfway to the 330, because that's where these cars that are going this fast, that's where they're going that fast. They're not just like making 7,000 horsepower and just piling it on out the 330 and going 250 out the back. Like, that's not how you go fast with a car like this, or really any radio car. It's all in the front half. So
about ready for the dyno. Got just like 2 things left on the list.
Yeah, go under. We're gonna put the plugs on the oil pan, do the third member, just check it. The third, it might be okay, but we wanted to check it. You know, the gear setup felt a little weird. We just don't want to, like, we don't want to go to the dyno and put it on there. Like, we have a third member we can put in. We don't want to put it on there and then blow the rear gear out of it. So
hey, we're not blowing any asses out in this thing.
Not blowing no rears.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. It's
I'm ready to hold the wheel. I'm ready to test it. I'm a steering wheel holder.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to turn the lock up on them. We're gonna put a camera, like a GoPro, directly.
Like, it'll be like the guy that does the train reviews, where it'll just be like right in front of you. You see my eyes.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we already missed the opportunity for when we accidentally locked up the transmission in first gear at idle.
Yeah, no, we're just testing it.
We can confirm it has a lockup.
Sounds like hell, but it locks.